No one in that room paid attention to the cleaning lady leaning against the door, much less to the quiet baby in her arms, a child who didn't smile, didn't reach out, didn't approach anyone since she arrived. The atmosphere was elegant, filled with important voices, measured laughter, and conversations that didn't include people like her. Everything seemed to follow the expected script, until something completely out of control happened. When the millionaire crossed the room with his firm, distant posture, accustomed to not being touched, the baby did the unthinkable. Her tiny body leaned forward, her hands opened urgently, and she clung to him tightly, as if she recognized him, as if that embrace were a vital need. Silence filled the room. The cleaning lady froze. The millionaire stopped, and in that second, something invisible was broken, a barrier he had spent his whole life building. No one could explain why, but everyone felt it. That baby had just awakened something profound, and nothing in that room would ever be the same again. Before we delve into this amazing story, tell me which city and state you're watching from. Leave a comment, and I'll reply with gratitude. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video. We want to share more stories like this. The cleaning lady arrived early that day because she knew that, on important occasions, she needed to be even more invisible. She entered through the side entrance, pushing the cleaning cart carefully so as not to make a sound, as if the mere sound of her presence could be bothersome. In her arms, she carried the baby with delicacy and constant attention. The child remained awake, observing everything around her with attentive and silent eyes, without apparent curiosity, without that spontaneous enthusiasm that people expected from a baby. From a very young age, she did not accept contact. She did not extend her arms, did not react to voices, did not feel safe in anyone's lap other than her mother's. It was as if she had learned too early that the world offered no guarantees. The mother had heard all sorts of comments. Some came disguised as concern, others were effortlessly cruel. They said the baby was strange, difficult, too withdrawn. No one seemed interested in understanding why. The cleaning lady, however, knew that it wasn't rejection, it was defense. The child reacted this way because she had learned to feel fear even before she learned to trust. Still, every day, the mother tried. She sang softly, talked, showed her the surroundings, believing that at some point her daughter would feel safe enough to open up. The building was different that morning. Everything seemed more organized, cleaner, quieter. A heavy silence, typical of places where power circulates without needing to announce itself. The cleaning lady felt it in her body. She straightened her uniform, took a deep breath, and began to work, cleaning surfaces that would never be touched by people like her. Sometimes she had to stop to adjust the baby, but as soon as someone approached, the child stiffened, hid her face in her mother's neck, and held her breath as if in danger. People noticed, exchanged glances, whispered. A woman commented that a child shouldn't be there. A man complained about the inconvenience. None of them asked if everything was all right. None offered help. The millionaire arrived late, surrounded by people who moved around him with absolute attention. He didn't need to raise his voice to be noticed. His presence altered the rhythm of the place. He walked with firm steps, a controlled expression, someone accustomed to commanding any environment. For him, that event had no emotional importance. It was just another obligation, another commitment that needed to be fulfilled. He didn't notice the cleaning lady. He didn't notice the baby. Not out of conscious disdain, but because he had learned throughout his life not to look at those who weren't part of his world. The cleaning lady, on the other hand, noticed him immediately. Something about that man triggered an alert that was difficult to explain. Perhaps it was the extreme contrast between the two worlds. Perhaps it was the silent weight he carried in his gaze. She hugged the baby tightly when she saw him approach, fearing any kind of negative reaction. The child remained quiet, but there was something different in her behavior. It wasn't fear, it was attention. The room began to fill up. Conversations mingled, the sound of footsteps echoed, the atmosphere came alive. The cleaning lady tried to move even further away, looking for a corner where she could continue working without drawing attention. It was then that the baby began to move, restless. She wasn't crying, she wasn't complaining, she was just fidgeting as if she sensed something was out of place. The mother tried to calm her with soft words, but it didn't work. And at that moment, the millionaire passed close enough to be noticed by the child. What happened next came without warning. The baby stretched out suddenly, her eyes fixed on the man, and before her mother could react, she clung to him tightly, gripping the fabric of his clothing as if her grip depended on it. The gesture was instinctive, urgent, almost desperate. The entire room stopped, conversations ceased. People turned around simultaneously. The cleaning lady felt her heart race. She tried to pull her daughter back, offering hurried apologies, afraid of being reprimanded, humiliated, or even fired. She kept repeating that the baby never did that she would fix it, that she didn't mean to bother her. But the millionaire didn't move away. He remained motionless, as if his body had been stopped by something he couldn't understand. The small touch seemed to pierce through all the layers he had built up throughout his life. The baby wasn't crying, she wasn't smiling. She just stayed there, clinging, breathing irregularly but determinedly. The millionaire felt an unexpected tightness in his chest, something that didn't fit with that environment or the image he had always maintained. Confused fragments surfaced in his mind. Old memories, feelings of abandonment, a silence too heavy for a child to bear. He blinked, trying to push it away, but it was too late. Murmurs began. Some people showed curiosity, others disapproval. Someone suggested that the cleaning lady be removed from the premises. Another commented that it was inappropriate. The millionaire raised his hand in a simple gesture, asking for silence. Everyone obeyed. He looked at his mother, who was trembling, expecting a harsh reaction. But his gaze didn't hold anger. It held confusion and something deeper. "Does she usually do that?" he asked in a low voice. The cleaning lady answered with difficulty, saying no, that her daughter was afraid of contact, that she never approached anyone. He nodded slowly, as if that information confirmed something he still couldn't explain. He looked at the baby again, and at that moment felt an unexpected urge arise to protect her. Without realizing it, a line had been crossed. This was no longer just a casual encounter. Something had been awakened. The millionaire was no longer just the powerful man in the salon. The cleaning lady was no longer invisible, and the baby, silent and withdrawn, had become the starting point of a story that was just beginning. A story capable of revealing buried truths and changing destinies that seemed immutable. The silence that followed that unexpected gesture was unbroken by anyone. It was as if the entire atmosphere had been suspended, waiting for something greater to be revealed. The millionaire remained motionless for a few seconds, feeling the small weight of the baby clinging to him, as if that contact had pierced not only his clothes, but all the layers he had built up throughout his life to protect himself from the world. The cleaning lady, her heart racing, finally managed to carefully release her daughter, apologizing again, her voice low and trembling, accustomed to explaining her existence. He didn't respond immediately. He simply observed the child, who now stared at him silently, as if certain of something that no adult there could understand. The event continued, but nothing returned to normal. The millionaire tried to resume his conversations, shake hands, smile at the right moments, but his attention was elsewhere. His eyes repeatedly searched the corner of the room where the cleaning lady was trying to work, as if nothing had happened. The baby remained quiet, but different. She wasn't withdrawn as before. There was a strange calmness about her, almost a relief, This bothered the millionaire deeply because it raised questions he had avoided his entire life. For years, he had learned to control everything: companies, people, decisions. But he had never learned to deal with what didn't make sense. When the event ended and the hall began to empty, he approached the cleaning lady. He wasn't authoritative, nor was he in a hurry. He was careful. He asked if she was leaving soon. She replied that she still needed to finish a few tasks. He hesitated for a moment, then said she could wait. That simple phrase unsettled the woman, who wasn't used to being considered. When they finished, he suggested they talk in a quieter place. There was no order in his voice, only a sincere request. Sitting face to face, the millionaire asked about the baby. The cleaning lady recounted what she rarely dared to tell, that the child didn't react to the world, that doctors spoke of emotional blocks, that she blamed herself for not being able to offer enough security. She spoke of sleepless nights, of the constant fear of losing her daughter to a definitive silence. As she listened, the millionaire felt something painfully fall into place. Each word seemed to touch a sensitive point in his own story. He too had been a silent child. He too had learned too early to shut himself off. He too had grown up believing that depending on someone was dangerous. Without realizing it, he began to recount things he had never shared with anyone. He spoke of a childhood marked by absence, of an exhausted mother who worked too much, of long periods when he felt invisible even when present. He spoke of how he had promised himself that he would never be weak again, that he would never need anyone again. And as he spoke, he realized how much that promise had cost him. Everything he had achieved had failed to fill the void that now manifested itself powerfully when he remembered the touch of that baby. In the following days, he began to observe more, not just the cleaning lady and the child, but everything around him. He started noticing how many people crossed the hallways unseen, how many faces wore weariness, how many stories were ignored daily. And amidst all this, the baby began to change. Gradually, she began to react more, to observe her surroundings with less tension, to accept being held by others with less resistance. But there was still something special when he approached. Whenever she saw him, her body relaxed. He tried to deny what he felt. He told himself it was just empathy, that it meant nothing. But every time he thought about going on with his life normally, something pulled him back. Until, one quiet night, he made a decision that involved neither contracts nor strategies. He called the cleaning lady to talk, and with a sincerity that surprised her, said he wanted to help. Not as charity, not as a favor. He wanted to guarantee security, medical care, stability. He wanted to offer what he had never had when he needed it most. The cleaning lady cried, not out of despair, but out of relief. For the first time, someone wasn't treating her like a problem to be solved, but like a mother trying to do her best. Over time, the help turned into companionship into bonding, and bonding into something neither of them dared to name. The baby, now more alive, more present, began to show affection in simple yet profound ways. Small gestures that said more than any words. One day, during a consultation, a specialist explained something that made everything make sense. He said that some children, when experiencing extreme insecurity in the first months of life, develop deep defense mechanisms. But sometimes, when they recognize a familiar emotional pattern in someone, a similar pain, a known silence, they connect instinctively. That initial bond was not by chance, it was recognition. The millionaire left the room in silence. He walked to an empty spot and let the tears flow for the first time in many years. They weren't tears of sadness, but of understanding. He realized he had spent his entire life trying to escape the child he once was, and that now that child had caught up with him in the form of a baby who needed exactly what he had learned to deny himself: presence, security, constancy. Months later, Their routine was different. Not perfect, not free of challenges, but real. The baby no longer hid from the world. The cleaning lady no longer felt invisible. And the millionaire, who once believed that success was absolute control, had learned that true strength lay in staying when it would be easier to leave. In that hall where it all began, no one would ever remember that specific event. For the guests, it had been just another elegant gathering, but for 3 lives that instant had changed everything. Because sometimes it's not a speech, a visible miracle, or a grand decision that transforms destinies. Sometimes it's just a silent gesture, an unexpected embrace capable of revealing what the heart always knew but was afraid to admit. And if this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone you love. Click now to share it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories we're preparing with great care for you.